Thank you. So I'm Piotr. I'm an attorney from Poland. I've been working for the same company for like 15 years now. Started from the basic position. Now I'm the co-owner of the company, and I deal with the matter of dispute resolution, actually. So
Okay.
DeLaw is something I'm interested in. I work from the basis. So before dispute, so I draft contract, shareholders agreements, and all this stuff, and up to the point where we have dispute to resolve. So I work with parties in negotiations, mediations to find a solution that should be to accept by all parties. Then that's what I do on daily basis. So that's the main activity in my
Mhm.
practice.
Thank you for sharing that. I think then this conversation will be very interesting, and congratulations also for your path of starting from yeah, like lower positions and now being on top of the chain in your yeah in your
Thank you.
company. So you were telling me that you've been a little bit immersed into dispute resolution, and also that you are interested in the law. And so I would like you to maybe elaborate a little bit more in that. So what are like the most common disputes that you can get nowadays?
Well, the most commons are the one between entrepreneurs, so business to business, and
Mm-hmm.
that's actually why I try to learn about DeLaw because we have
Yeah.
so many issues nowadays with this complicated procedure to deal with business matters, and it's not time effective. It's not effective at all. So business to business is something we have to work on, and that's why I try to learn about deal law. So
Yeah.
basically, business to business.
Exactly, exactly. So definitely then this would be something interesting to start defining then what is the law, because I've been researching into different themes and different interpretations. So there is some fear, I think, from people that don't know the technology or the law industry, and that they think like decentralized law is like nobody's in charge and it's going to be an anarchy. So, can you tell me maybe like what is the law for you and how it does this differ from traditional law?
Well, I'll start with traditional law because
Mm-hmm.
that's the goal. That's something we want to change. So traditional legal system consists of hierarchy and it's centralized. So we have
Yeah.
in most system one court that deals with all the matters, and we put everything into one basket. And what I would like to see changed is that we have this decentralized system. So this DLaw, which we have, which allows us to have different courts for different matters. So we have maybe we'll stick to the hierarchy, but we have this centralized ability to put each matter into its own bracket. So we have different courts and all possibility to resolve a matter in different courts. But about the issue you were talking about with the problems of people, as we go
Mm-hmm.
to the court, we basically allow and agree that this court will settle our matter. So we can do the same with DeLaw. Basically, we have to have two parties at least that will agree that this court, this trial, this DeLaw resolution system will deal with our matter. And in the end, I don't think that should be an issue. So the main difference is that we have the ability to have those specific, very content-oriented DLaw resolution systems.
Right. Yeah, I think that really makes sense. So you think like both things can work together. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So like continuing with that, is like what do you see is the primary driving forces behind the shift between like towards something decentralized? So like why now? What is happening and what's the need?
The first And the main need is the efficiency. We have to have those matters settled or resolved very fast. We don't, we cannot wait weeks, months, or even years for a trial to finish, to have this judgment, to go to a different court to have this ruling enforced. It takes a lot of time. With decentralized system, we have this court's ability to decide in a matter of days, maybe hours, if we proceed to automated legal dispute resolution. So efficiency is the main goal. And the second one is globalization. So we have ability to have this one court to dispute matter from different legal system, from different countries. Nowadays, we tend to have courts in separate countries. So if I have a dispute to start in a different legal system, I have to seek assistance from professional lawyer from different country, and it takes time, it takes money.
Right.
If I'll be able to solve the dispute between countries, between different legal system efficiently, that would be perfect. And that's the third reason. I mean, money. Obviously, cost efficiency is very important nowadays, and legal professionals are expensive. We all know that. So if we have multinational disputes, we have to include legal professionals from different countries. It will cost money. If you don't have to do it, if you can just stick to one professional who is proficient in DeLaw, that will be very cost efficient.
Yeah. I think you raised some interesting points in here because I guess like for multinational companies, like you mentioned, it is very important to them to be protected and to keep it cost efficient and effective. However, they might be able to afford these disputes, but it will be extremely challenging for smaller companies or for smaller businesses, even freelancers, so people that that aren't getting paid, or that they have this type of disputes and they just simply can't afford the traditional services, or just can't stop their life waiting for years or months and years in trial. So I think it's really exciting what you mentioned, that we can potentially resolve this in even hours or days instead. So in this case, what is in which ways you believe that the law can transform legal practices? So we talk about from the entrepreneur or business point. Now, from the legal point of view, how is this changing things?
Well, I think what can be very meaningful is that we can add professionals from different backgrounds and include them to the legal system. Like nowadays, if you want to start a trial, you have to find professionals who explain to the judge what the real life is. So what this code means, what the IP law says. So you have to have those additional persons included in the trial. But we can kind of change the way that the professionals will start to be judges themselves. So you don't have to have this formal judge to decide the case, but you have to have you can have those specialists like programmers or people from various backgrounds to just share their knowledge, and based on their knowledge just dispute their and resolve the case. So that's the main pro, I think. That's the main advantage.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty important, like once technology keeps evolving and new things, and now with AI, there is a new AI tool almost every day, and we are like going towards something almost unknown. So it's really hard to keep up as a professional in the law department. I think that's pretty interesting what AI is doing, because there are no laws right now created to manage these type of technologies. There is many professionals that they don't even know what's going on. So definitely, it's going to be very good for professionals like you to keep up and also to help peers and colleagues to understand, yeah, how all of this changing. I would be interesting to know, like, because you've mentioned before, like the process of dispute resolutions is like normally costly and takes time. Maybe you can walk me through how the process normally looks like, and then how the process with the law would look like in comparison.
Okay, so a typical case consists of certain steps. First of all, you have to meet the client and know what the case is about. Then you look for evidences, you look for specialists to kind of explain you what the case is about in real life. Then you have to start the dispute. So either you collect evidences even more, or you go to court, you have this trial, and then you have the judgment, which you can appeal off to another court. And then if you get you have this second ruling, you can enforce the judgment. So that's a very long way till the end. On this way, you have to pay all those individuals, those attorneys. You have to pay court fees. You have to pay those specialists to explain you the matter. So on each step, it takes time and it takes money. And I believe in DeLaw, if we have this specialized courts, you have to just start the case, kind of maybe explain it in the meantime, or even you can just make a statement, and then the court itself should know what the law is, what the matter is, and then maybe in many cases you will have some kind of automated answer what the outcome may be, or you can talk to the jurors first what the outcome may be, and then it should be way easier to resolve the matter amicably. If not, then the judgment may be made way faster, because at this point you will already know what the judgment might be. So the process should be way faster, and then you skip the first middleman, the court itself, and then you skip the another middleman which explains you what the matter is about. So without all those middlemen, it should be way easier just to finish the case.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Once I was reading a little bit more about it, I realized that it. I don't know why this didn't exist before. It's just so much easier. However, I found myself in a little of a conundrum, because I was thinking of how it is for law enforcement. So it's like you've mentioned before, globalization. So if I'm in a different country and having business transactions in another country, I understand that, like, I'm not really sure like which under which law I'm conducting my business. Is it from the country I'm in, or in the other country, or international law? And now with the law, it's like how can we ensure that there is like law enforcement and rules are respected? So what will be some like real world application in this case for the law?
Well, let me start with disadvantages.
Yeah.
You asked why it's not working yet. So the main reason is power shift and this enforcement. As we know in blockchain, in coins, the countries are very reluctant to give away all this power they have nowadays. And
right.
Probably with DeLaw, it will be the same. So countries, international institutions will not be eager to shift the power to those decentralized systems. And with DeLaw enforcement, the way I see it is that the only way to enforce a judgment from DeLaw institution is that we agree, so the parties beforehand agree that they will accept the judgment. If not, it will be very difficult to enforce the judgments. As you mentioned, we have this globalized world when people from Europe connect with people from South America, from North America. If I myself would like to enforce a judgment from the law institution in the United States, I would have to go to these legal professionals in the United States, and that would ruin the institution of the law,
Right.
basically, because I will have to come back to the centralized system of the United States, and basically I would need the law institution to deal my matter. So in the end, we will have all to agree that this DDRS will solve our matter. If not, it probably won't work.
Right, right. I think that's the key of it. Like the power belongs to the people. So you beforehand and the other party as well, they both yeah, agree. Both give their consent and acceptance of whatever the outcome it is to make it fair. And I think like at the end, it can give you even more a sense of security because it doesn't depend on a third party. It depends on your own compromise as an individual. So definitely it is an interesting approach. And it's an interesting approach that also companies are taking now and even governments. For example, Amazon has their online dispute resolution system for ordering products, and also the European Union now they have their online dispute resolution system. However, these systems are not decentralized because they belong either for the company or to the European Union in these cases. But reports have shown that this has increased only 22% of the e-commerce trust. So that's quite high, it's significant. And now from a personal level, I wonder like how do you think the DRS then might impact the confidence for people in conflict resolution?
Well, you've mentioned one reason, that means trust. If we trust that our matter will be disputed in a trustworthy and transparent manner, we'll most likely believe in the judgment. We doesn't even have to talk about enforcement. We'll just believe that was okay. So in most cases, in small matters especially, people tend to give up on the cases because they don't believe they will first receive the judgment and that the judgment will be fair. If we start believing that it will be our case will be judged fast, transparent, and in a trustworthy manner, that will increase safety. And then people will be able to communicate, to start new matters, start new cooperation globally, because they will believe that if I cooperate with someone from a different state, from different part of the world, if we start a dispute, we'll be able to settle it quickly in a trustworthy manner, and that's something that's worth working on. And that's where I see DeLaw working perfectly, is that this safety, this trustworthiness will increase, and in the end, it will help people communicate even better.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And thanks for displaying this information. It sounds wonderful, the law, but everything has also its downside. We've also mentioned before about the enforcement, so both parties will have to agree. So it is possible to execute afterwards. And I wonder which other challenges do you believe are out there to implement this decentralized dispute resolution system?
Well, that may be funny, but I think the best advantage of DeLaw may be also one of its disadvantages. I mean, the connectiveness and cultural differences between parties.
Right. Yeah.
Because if we connect people from different part of the world, they may have different views of what's fair, of what is just, of what the outcome of the dispute should be, and it may be uh, difficult for people to understand why the outcome they've received was the outcome. So if we
Yeah.
stick to one cultural background, like in Poland, we kind of know our culture. We know what to expect, but somebody else from different part of the world might have a total different vision, and then we won't have this higher authority to tell us what's just. We'll have to decide ourselves, and that might be sometimes difficult, as we see in today's life. So that's might be something that's not really obvious, but might be an issue. And the second one, obviously, the regulatory obstacles. So the different countries may regulate DeLaw differently. They might even try to block it, because that would mean the power shift. And as we see with blockchain, it might not be so open in all these societies.
Of course. Yeah, I think these 2 points, like one very obvious, one not so much. So I would like to like dig deeper into this. So about the blockade or the limitations that government has on nowadays in blockchain and Web3 technology. Absolutely, it really depends. But also there is like lots of companies and projects that are built based on real expectations and on real promises, let's say, whereas there are other companies that are building real projects, and they are also creating technology that can shape the future. And I was also in a meeting with a venture capitalist group, and they were saying that now the most of their venture capitals are investing in groups that are changing the future of society, including companies that are working on legal tech, for example. So I think this definitely, while there will be some countries that will take their time to adapt to this, there are other ones that are moving forward to a better future and to shaping and taking the innovation lead. And whereas what the other matter that you mentioned, the cultural background, I think this is really interesting because not many people think about this. And I wonder, like, do you like have any suggestions of how these challenges can be addressed?
Actually, to the cultural part, I don't know. To be honest,
Okay.
I have this one example. Like, if you watch a sports game, you have those teams, two teams playing each other, and some people tend to cheer for one team, some people for the other one. Who's right? Nobody.
Right.
You cannot, uh, from the judgment, explain who should be the winning party. So that's something we just have to live with, I think.
Yeah.
That's the life. So I don't think we have to fight and change those cultural uh, issues, so to speak.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And to the enforcement, to the regulatory obstacles, we have to work. Each of us have to work with our society, with our governments, and explain them that the world has changed. We are the people, and we should start making our own decisions and to shape our society. It should be from downstairs, so to speak, not from the above. And sooner or later, they will understand this power shift. They will understand that we can communicate with each other. We have different views, we have different opinions, and we want, in this political situation, we want law to understand us, not law to shape us.
Exactly. And at the end, it's a matter of having an open mind and also keeping it critical and understanding that, yeah, there is not right or there is not wrong. There are just different points of view. I think the interesting part of the decentralized dispute resolution system is that you can have a juror. So as in, and correct me if I'm wrong, in traditional law, you have a jury with different backgrounds. So to
Exactly.
try to make a fair assessment, and likewise could be for a decentralized law, so you can have different cultural backgrounds as well, to try to make it as balanced as possible. And let's talk about now the future. So we've discussed the challenges the benefits. We've discussed what is the situation right now. Now, to use a little bit more of our imagination, I would like to know, like looking ahead, let's say 5 to 10 years, what do you see in the future for decentralized law in general?
Well, what I see and I would like to see is some kind of global impact of this institution, that we all believe that we ourselves can create this decentralized legal system to help us deal with global matters, because we have global matters nowadays. We don't have our own matters, we don't have our country's matters, we have global matters. So in 5 to 10 years, maybe our governments will understand that's the way it is, and we'll be able to have this decentralized system, and maybe we'll have those DDRS designed to settle certain matters, maybe even automatically. So it will be prepared to dispute matters that really matters to us and that are nowadays kind of left alone. So these really small matters, when people tend to give up, not to pursue their case because they're afraid of the outcome. So I want to see the future bright. I want to see
Yeah,
DeLaw working, and hopefully it will.
yeah, yeah. I think like there is a lot of people that they call themselves realistic, and they tackle almost into pessimistic mindset. However, there are a lot of working people dedicating their time and effort to try to make these things right, and really create a technology that's tangible, that's useful, and that could be used for everyone, such as your case as a legal professional now interested in these things, and you're also like taking the leap of faith and innovation in your area, as well as VAIOT is in the company's landscape. So it's a company that is also shaping or leading the shaping of this future. So how do you see, like, how can lawyers prepare for like your peers and colleagues for these changes to come?
Well, lawyers tend to be more conservative. They're reluctant to change, and they want to stick to what's known, because they'll learn to work on cases, on things that already are decided. But what I want to see, what I want my colleagues to understand, that we should be open, because the world is changing, and not every change is good, but we have to see and to participate in the change, just to try to enforce the best changes we want to see, not just to be some kind of reviewer that just accept what's given and not to participate in the change. So the one thing I would like to see is just the openness.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's like keeping the mind open, and being able to understand that times are changing, and yeah, and you need to adapt with it. Otherwise, then you're gonna get forgotten. So I guess like this is something that our company is trying to do. So we want to build legal service, not legal services, legal technology to facilitate the work of lawyers to provide these legal services. So these legal tools, such as the DRS, decentralized law. Um, so I would like to know, talking again about the future, like what role do you see VAIOT playing in this future of the industry?
Well, I've worked with VAIOT for quite some time now, and I know you have a very dedicated team that is very capable of creating those tools. Because what I think about DeLaw is that this is a tool, and you have this technology, you have those people that are capable of creating this tool. And I hope and I wish you that you will be one of the innovators in this technology. And I have the belief that you have those resources to do so.
Thank you. I want to. I would like to say that it would definitely working hard on making it happen. So even with all the consultations and all the information that we try to keep up, there is there is always, I think, a space to create also innovative tools, and I think that's what is in the centerpiece of the company right now. But going like circling back about this theme that we've been discussing so far, the law itself, I think I would like it for you to give to the public a few last words, like a few like conclusion remarks, I must say, about the theme. So what do you take home about the law?
Well, so the main thing about is DeLaw is that you'll be able to decide. So the power will be back to the people, and you will be able to create the law that governs your matter. So basically, you will be able to wield the power, and that's the main reason, that's the main thing for me behind the DeLaw. So that's it, and we
Yeah,
have to work on it.
yeah, thanks a lot. With that note, I think we came to the end of the interview. Maybe you can tell the audience how can they connect with you and learn more about your work, about the company that you go on.
Well, the easiest way would be to catch me on LinkedIn. You can just DM me and I'll definitely answer. So find me there.
Thanks a lot, Piotr. So
Thank you.
thanks also for your time, and it was lovely to understand more about this theme with you.